Okay, so I have some extremely depressing news, although it's not at all surprising. So the Democrats are eyeing a slimmed down drug price deal to advance the $3.5 trillion infrastructure bill. Now, if you've been paying attention, which you should be, the Democrats have been caving hard to the moderates. The moderates are effectively starting to push things in their favor, and they're starting to get everything that they want. And the Democrats are conceding, and it seems like the fight is really slowing down. And now we're looking at not a $3.5 trillion infrastructure bill, not even a $3 trillion infrastructure bill. We're looking at something in the ballpark of what Biden actually told progressive leaders: 1.75 to 1.9 trillion. And who knows, it might even get less than that, because we all know Joe Manchin wants 1.5 trillion, and apparently he's like the actual president in disguise, because he gets every fucking thing he wants. But this is an article from Politico that talks about an issue that's way too prevalent for the Democrats to be weak and to fold on, as they usually do with every other issue: the issue of drug prices here in this country. But before I get into this political article, I just want to remind you that Public Citizen did a recent report where they showed, and we already knew this, but they showed that Americans pay more for drugs, pharmaceutical drugs, than every other country in the world combined, or every other rich country in the world combined, something like that. It's absurd. And the pharmaceutical industries by themselves make the vast majority of their profits, 60, 70, 80% of their profits, from Americans. Because we pay, so they get to screw the fuck out of us, because Medicare doesn't negotiate for lower drug prices. That's a decision of our own. So we get screwed, and that's how they make their money, because other countries negotiate on behalf of their citizenry. But let me get into this really depressing article. Congressional Democrats are watering down and may entirely drop a plan to have the government directly negotiate some Medicare drug prices in order to help clinch a deal on their sweeping social spending package. Top Democrats have acknowledged for weeks that they've had to significantly weaken the plan in order to win over holdout centrist lawmakers, but they're preparing to compromise far more than advocates or lawmakers expected, as they run up against party leaders' deadline for a deal on the broader legislation. It's been eviscerated, said Representative Lloyd Doggett, the Democrat from Texas. He, who chairs the Health Subcommittee of House Ways and Means and has pushed for aggressive drug price controls. At some point, you have to ask, and I'm going to return to this quote right here. Is it worth it to pass it at all if it's going to be some meaningless thing? The pressure to reach an agreement that can pass the House and Senate has intensified with the failure to reach agreements on other revenue-raising provisions that can pay for new programs in the bill, including expansions of Medicare, Medicaid, Obamacare subsidies, and home health care. Efforts to raise taxes on the wealthy and corporations, for example, have run into opposition from Senator Kirsten Sinema. President Joe Biden has been pushing Democrats to settle outstanding issues in this spending bill and pass a bipartisan infrastructure plan before he leaves for overseas climate talks next week. Speaker Nancy Pelosi and her leadership team maintain that they will clinch a deal and may even hold a vote on the spending package next week, although many Democrats are skeptical of that timeline. There are many decisions that have to be made, but I would say that more than 90% of everything is agreed to, Pelosi said Friday when asked about the drug pricing talks. We are an exuberant party with many points of view, and we build our consensus and will get this done. Still, a significant compromise on drug pricing will represent a major blow to progressives on an issue that polls well among voters across the political spectrum. At least the latest example of how key Senate centrists like Sinema have whittled down Democrats' original $3.5 trillion social safety net plan into a package that could wind up under $2 trillion. Now, get this. This is extremely important. Negotiations among the House, Senate, and White House on drug pricing in particular have intensified in recent days in a bid to win over key holdouts and allies of the drug industry, including Senator Bob Mendez, Tom Carpenter, along with Representatives Kurt Schrader, Scott Peters, and Kathleen Rice. Those last three names, those three representatives in the House, I made a video about them. They're incredibly corrupt. Those three representatives combined have taken millions of dollars from Big Pharma. That's why they're opposing this shit. It's absolutely criminal. Criminal. And I want to read this last paragraph. Though the situations remain fluid, Democrats say it's likely the final bill will involve very limited government negotiation of drug prices, and there remains the possibility it could drop out entirely. Guys, Big Pharma is winning. Big Pharma is winning. They're winning. Let me explain something to you, just in case you're having trouble. What they're arguing here is they want to give Big Pharma, which they already have. They want to not give it to them because they already have it. They want to reserve for Big Pharma the right to screw over Americans so that we have to pay loads of money for our drugs so that they can pad their pockets. That's it. That's it. This isn't some educated issue that you have to be really enlightened to understand. No, this is very simple. This is very simple. This is something called corruption. Kirsten Sinema herself has taken over $900,000 in recent times from Big Pharma and the health insurance industries to do their bidding. And that's exactly what she's doing. And those other Democrats in the House and the Democrats along with Kirsten Sinema in the Senate, it's absolutely criminal. It's criminal and it's reprehensible. And if you're wondering, man, why isn't Joe Biden saying anything about this? Because Big Pharma floods his pockets as well. They bought both parties. They bought both parties. I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous. You know what a president that's actually in favor of lower drug prices for Americans, which everybody supports. I mean, who in their right mind wants to pay higher drug prices? Oh, I'm in favor of getting, fucking swindled. Yeah. Who says that? That's why when you poll these things, they're 80, 90% of people in agreement. Like, yeah, we should not be overcharged by Big Pharma. Like, Medicare should definitely negotiate for lower drug prices for Americans. You know what happens when Americans can't afford their afford their drugs because the prices are too high? They can't take them and they may die, and they have to ration and they may die. I mean, it's criminal. It's absolutely insane. It's a war on the American people. That's what it is. And that's what it's always been. And there's many of these wars that are being waged against our population by our politicians and by the industries that run them. It's absolutely insane. If a president that actually believed in this is what he would do. It's not Joe Biden, by the way. He would call on the American people and say, hey, this is what's going on. This is who's taking this much money from Big Pharma, and they're blocking Medicare for negotiating for lower drug prices. You know what you should do? You should go get in the streets. You should go protest in front of this person's home who's obstructing this. This is where they stay. Go stand in front of their house and make them feel bad. You remember how those people followed Kirsten Sinema into the bathroom and everybody exploded about it and got really upset? Yeah, how about you go do more of that? Make them feel uncomfortable. Make them fall in line. And I'll do my part as well. He's not doing that, and he's not going to do it. Not only because he's weak, but he's also corrupt. Guys, look, they've been folding like crazy. I just made a video, detailing in an article about how free community college is gone. The paid leave is down from 12 weeks to 4 weeks. The child tax credits are taking a hit. I mean, every which way, this bill is getting fucked. And seemingly, there's nothing that anybody wants. There's nothing that anybody can do about it because they're just incredibly weak and they're not fighting. And who knows? Look, maybe we'll see some positive development on this. I don't want to spell out an entirely bleak future. Look, we don't really have a reason to believe in the progressives in Congress and the Senate. Because they haven't given us a reason to be completely honest with you. I mean, they've just been caving like crazy over these past couple of weeks, and it's really depressing. But this is something that runs really deep with me personally, because, I mean, it's right in front of our faces, and we're getting screwed. And the only reason this is being obstructed is because Big Pharma is stepping in and they're paying it's pay to play. It's absolutely insane, and there's nothing that regular people can seemingly do about it. But look, man, and I said I wanted to return to what the one senator, or was it a House member? It was a House member said earlier, Lloyd Doggett. And this is something that I want to stress. He says, at some point you have to ask, is it worth it to pass it at all if it's going to be some meaningless thing? And I want to answer his question. No, it's not worth it. How would the American people feel if, because, you know, the Democrats are going to come out if they pass this and say, oh, we got drug price negotiation reform. And they're only paying a little bit less. That's going to enrage people. That's going to enrage people. So you're going to have to get some radical change, and you're going to have to use means that you otherwise wouldn't normally do in order to get it. But the Democrats aren't going to do that, and we're probably not going to see any change on an issue that the American people largely support. And I almost said Republican there, that Republicans support. Like I said earlier, who wants to pay higher drug prices for no reason? For any reason. It makes absolutely no sense in a representative democracy where they're supposed to represent us and do the will of the people, and they never do. And on this issue, it's absolutely sad, because this is something that Democrats have been saying they were going to do for some time. For, I mean, over a decade now, decades, they've been saying they were going to lower drug price for Americans, and it's yet to happen. And if it doesn't happen, it's going to be incredibly sad, and this should piss everybody off. This should piss absolutely everybody off. If Democrats can't get this, I mean, they have absolutely no hope for the future. This is really sad and just terrible.